Welcome to the State of the Utility 2025. My name is Ariel Romero Cox. So you all have a designated key customer rep. If you haven't noticed, you have a color on your badge. It is associated with your assigned rep. And I really want to highlight this amazing team that works year-round to be your point of contact. So our key customer team is your energy advisor, your trusted energy advocate to all services and programs within the city of Santa Clara. So they're your dedicated support. If you have an outage that you need real-time updates on, if you have any service requirements, if you just have a question on your utility account and have a question about your billing, they are your point of contact for anything that you need with us. So everything when it comes to programs, so as you know, Santa Clara is electrifying our fleet. We're doing a lot in the way of building electrification as well. We also help you with your energy efficiency and meet your renewable energy and sustainability goals. They are your source for all of the programs here at SVP. So with that, I am going to hand it over to our wonderful Acting Chief Electric Utility Officer, Nico Prokos.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Let me see if I can get this right. I'm not actually going to go back. So I want to acknowledge everybody who put this together this morning. This is a lot of work. So we've got the group here. Most are sitting over here. I think we've also, Astra was involved in that as well. So let's give a round of applause to them that's putting this program together. So again, I'm Chief Operating Officer and currently the Acting Director of SVP. Can everybody hear me okay in the back there? All good? So I'll be kicking off this program today, and we're going to cover a broad array of topics. And if you have any questions, are we doing questions at the end or at the end? So hold your questions for now. We'll talk briefly about the organizational structure. Really, we're just like any other city department. As you can see on the left there, we've got the governing body, which is our city council. I'm not going to go through everybody there, but you can kind of get a sense of how it works. And then moving to the right, we're led by our city manager, Jovan Grogan. And then I'm right below there. And then you see the team, which we have some of them here. Chris, I think Nick is here. Kathleen is not here. And Deanna is right over there as well. So kind of gives a picture of how we function. I'm going to start with our historic load growth, and this goes all the way back to January 2000. So you can kind of see, get a sense over a 25-year period what has changed for us, and you can kind of see there's kind of the rolling average, the monthly average, but it tells up through 2006, there was some change and all that, but nothing dramatic. And then starting around 2007, 2008, again it went up a little bit, and then it's kind of more flattened out. And then we get to 2015, and it really starts to take a jump up there through 2018, and then kind of flattens out a little bit there for a bit, and then really starting about 2021, and I think we're starting to see the data centers show up and a lot more energy use, and we're really seeing a big jump in consumption, and I'll get to it a little bit later on, talking about what we see for the future. So very quickly on the budget front, our FY25 adopted budget is $670 million. Our 5-year capital budget is almost $1 billion. We'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. Our sales are expected to increase 50% over the next 10 years. I think one of the takeaways here is if you look at utilities around the country or in the state, you're not going to come across too many that are experiencing or anticipating this kind of growth and all the changes that we're doing to meet all that growth. So, summary of sales for FY 2024, we've got the pie chart on the right, which kind of gives a nice picture of where our sales come from, and then it ties in with that table to the left. I think one of the key takeaways here is industrials, approximately 92% of our sales. So we're really very heavy on the industrial side. Residential is only about 6%, so a very small amount. And again, this is somewhat unusual in the utility space. It's actually really unusual. So just our characteristics. Under economy of scales, The benefits of having large customers and a large customer base. Major capital costs, we get to spread those across a bunch of customers. We can build cost-effective local projects to increase reliability. So we have power plants in town, and we're talking about more power plants or more facilities. We can partner with other agencies, like we're part of the Northern California Power Agency, to help stabilize rates. And we can purchase, when it comes to renewables, we're able to purchase large volumes. So we have the economies of scale to go out there and get these big contracts. What? I love this representation. First of all, we're at the bottom, and this is the one place where you want to be at the bottom. You know, the city of Santa Clara, our average rate is 13 cents. I live in PG&E territory, so I'm right there at the top there. This is a huge advantage to our customers, really across the board. And I think it's a big pull for why there's so much industrial activity here, so much interest in coming to Santa Clara. Obviously, it benefits our residential customers, but also on the industrial and commercial side. So we're very proud of this. This is quite an accomplishment. And as we look forward and we don't have kind of a representation of the 10-year forecast for the budget, we're really in a good spot. Our sales are projected to continue to go up to the extent that we're able to increase sales. That helps put downward pressure on rates. We're able to contain costs as well. We're actually projecting that we're going to be putting more money into reserves, which is a good thing actually, because there's risks associated with running an electric utility. Wasn't necessarily going to talk about that so much today, but probably seen in the news about wildfire risks, power lines. I mean, the tragedy that just happened down in LA. They're still sorting through some of that, but everyone's looking at those situations. What role did the electric utility have? Well, we're not immune to things like that. So I'm going to talk about our key utility priorities, and there's 4 right here: growth and expansion, maintenance programs, power acquisition strategy, and customer experience. Diving right in under growth and expansion, we are growing. That's the takeaway right there. Our system operating limit is currently about 750 megawatts. We're doing a staffing study right now. We are understaffed. And we brought somebody in coordination with the city manager's office, do an evaluation there. I fully expect the outcome will be that, yeah, you're understaffed, so it's not a revelation or anything like that. And so we're going to be adding more staff. We have more substations coming online. We have a lot of work happening with our system expansion plan. We just don't have, we're not structured right now to be able to be nimble in that environment. So we want to be able to add more personnel. And also, I think we're focusing a lot more on technology as well, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We need to be able to optimize the way we do things. Gone are the days where you create a maintenance tag on a piece of paper and somebody goes out in the field and then somebody puts it in a spreadsheet. We need to be able to put that into GIS and then also develop an asset management plan, which is something that we're working on. So our current peak is about 722 megawatts. We're planning for 1,300. So we're anticipating a big jump in growth, and that's over a relatively short time frame as well. Load growth, key priorities. Really, we're looking internally and externally. We do a lot of work with the ISO. We just put together some comments related to that, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as those activities. So that's external. We want to be able to bring in more megawatts. We want more transmission. We're really advocating. And we're getting a good response from them. They finally recognize that there's a need there. I mean, this is California. Transmission projects typically don't happen overnight. It takes a long time. More often than not, they just die. What we're seeing is things working at an unprecedented pace, projects being proposed in this area and elsewhere. And then internally, we have our projects, and we've got a couple of folks from our project group, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. So well, there it is right there, SVP in-city project. So we're working on rebuilding several receiving stations. We have a new transmission line to connect some of those receiving stations to be able to move the flow around a little bit better. Upgrading existing transmission And also we have a battery storage facility that we're putting within the city limits. I'm not going to go through all of this. Just on the left-hand side, the ISO, this is the 2022 planning process. And the outcome of that was a project, an HVDC project. And shortly after that, you can see in about 2024, there was a change to that project. So it went from DC to AC. And there was a recognition that by changing the project, we're going to be able to bring in more megawatts into the city. A lot happening in very short time frame. I've been in this business for about 25 years. I've never seen them make dramatic changes like this on such a short time. They recognize this is kind of a critical area and there's a critical need as well. Moving forward on the 2025 transmission planning process, some new projects are also being added as part of that as well. There's been some changes to those existing projects that were approved previously, but then some additional projects are coming down the pipeline. And I think with what I was talking about earlier, where we're going to be submitting comments in support of these projects shortly, because we're trying to bring in more megawatts into the city. We recognize that there's a need. This kind of just summarizes what I already said. I'm not going to go deep into the engineering details. I know there's probably some electrical engineers here and we could really geek out on this, but I think just to suffice it to say that on the left-hand side, we kind of had the original, that's how the original project looked. And then there were some changes in the new project. And that's how that's that depiction on the right. The right-hand side, some of those elements have not been approved by the Board of Governors. For those of you who are active on the ISO front, I think the meeting is coming up I'm looking at Albert back there. It's like, is it next week, the meeting? Okay, 27. So if you're interested, feel free to chime in and in support of those projects because that's what we're going to be doing. And then looking inwards, this is a real success story, and this is really a testament to the work that staff has been doing. I talked earlier about, we're understaffed, and we're not the kind of your distribution utility that we used to be. We're now becoming a full-blown transmission, and generation, the whole complement. We're like kind of a mini PG&E, or let's say a mini SMUD, but we're catching up. We're actually going to be not too far from SMUD when we bake in all that load growth. So I think staff has been doing a great job. I mean, you look here, these are all customer dedicated substations, and you see quite a few of them have been energized in a short time frame. So really a great job. And some of those folks are here today, and afterwards, I think when there's some time for networking and lunch, I get a chance to meet them. For our major expansion projects, we're going to be financing this through bond issuances. That we've done the first one, that went really well, a very low interest rate. We were surprised by that. And we're going to be doing a second tranche probably in 2026 for the final 240 million. SRS and KRS, 229 million, a full rebuild and expansion. So this isn't only just an expansion, it's also, they've reached the end of their useful life. And a lot of utilities are running into that. So and they're dealing with this right now. And that's what we're trying to do in addition to expand it to accommodate all this growth. The bids received on May 1st. And the good news is so far, it looks pretty good. 6% under engineers' estimates. So some good news there. Major material procurement in progress. So we have a lot of orders in. Unfortunately, several of these are overseas. And we're dealing with some tariff issues right now. Hopefully that'll get all sorted out, but there's always some hiccups on these big projects like that. That was certainly something. Might be. Is there another bullet down there? I see that. Anyway, I'll do. Continuing with our expansion project. So NRS 147 million, same concept. The bids, I think, actually today are going to be opened. So hopefully we'll get some good news there as well. And then I talked earlier about a 115 kV transmission line, $48 million. That's going to connect NRS and KRS. 60% design underway. And we're going to be working on the easement acquisition. I think that next ones go in the next month, first batch, council for approval to move forward with those. And the construction should start in late 2020. We've also identified some upgrades that we need in our service territory. So Northwest Loop is one of those. We're reconductoring 2.62 miles of KV Northwest Loop for additional capacity, and also to help us with how do we optimize and how do we manage our system. That's one of the issues that we're struggling a little bit with, is that with everything happening and all this load growth, how is that going to impact our system? How the flows would change constantly. It's a very dynamic situation, and it's something that not a lot, if any, utilities have kind of run into. So we're gaining experience on that. And again, we're changing, we're upgrading our system, but it's all part of the package of developing into that utility to be able to go to 1,300 megawatts. That's at 90% design, and then we're going to go with the RFP for materials, hopefully energize in Q1 2026. Talked earlier about the battery energy storage project, 50 megawatts, 4-hour discharge, and that's actually underway right now. You can see completed on the left-hand side. I think they just finished all the site preparation, and they're going to be working on the right-hand side, bringing in, they've already got the orders in for the equipment, so that'll kind of trickle in, and you can see a depiction of the Tesla mega pack there at the bottom. So under maintenance programs, in the past, we've been very proactive, which isn't really an unusual strategy with utilities. It breaks, you go out and you fix it. And we've changed a lot of how we do things. And we're really focusing on predictive and condition-based maintenance. See some examples there. Thermography, partial discharge, dissolved gas analysis, vibration analysis, high voltage electrical testing. And that chart on the bottom left is an example of the vibration analysis. So we're using technology and these tools to be able to catch issues before they cascade into something much bigger. And then on the right, that cool looking depiction there is the thermography. So we're going out, we're scanning our system and looking for hot spots, addressing those as we find them. Talked a little bit about technology previously. We have an outage management system that's underway. I think it's summer 2025, we're anticipating to go live with that. So that's going to give us some additional tools. Modeling and battery optimization, the software for optimizing the timing of charge and discharge cycles. That's something that we're working on for 2025. And then on work management, I talked a little bit earlier, kind of jokingly, about the paper, issues when you go out and in the field, and then somebody puts it in a spreadsheet. So we're moving away from that, and we're developing. We've got Arcos, which is an automated call out, so scheduling and crew management. So we're going to be able to get the crews to be able to respond faster. We're going to be able to kind of optimize how they're scheduled, where they're working, and move folks around to be able to maximize the efficiencies in that area. ArcGIS, it doesn't sound, that sexy, but this is the fundamentals of the utility work, right? Asset management, GIS. We have to, and we're not alone. A lot of utilities are still working on this, but it's something that is really fundamental to what we want to do and how to improve our efficiency of all of our operations. And then I talked about the asset management system already. Renewable energy procurement, we're really doing a great job there. And there's a couple of folks who kind of work on this day to day. And you can kind of see that we have a lot of projects that we're working on. PPAs mostly. We do have some facilities that we own through our joint power agency. But we have a great group that's working on this. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's in the 5 to 10 range that we currently have in various stages of negotiation. So we're anticipating all this load growth, and really the mandate that's coming from our city council is there's a lot of concern about renewables and carbon free. This isn't really unusual in California, and how do we go out there and we procure those? And I will say that I think we've done a great job there because we're in competition with the community choice aggregators and the other utilities in the area who are going after all these similar assets. So it's really a good story. And I'm about to hand it off to Chris here in a second, but let me touch on some upcoming items and ARS SRS construction contract. Some of this I talked about already. It's a June timeframe. NRS construction contract, also June. We're actually moving to have those both on the same meeting date, just for efficiencies. Northwest Loop upgrade contract, TBD. I mentioned about the 115 kV line. We're working on property acquisition and easement acquisition related to that project. And the property acquisition, we are also purchasing properties because we need it as part of the expansion. Also, some point in the future, we might have a conversation about potential power plant. Lots happening, lots of contracts and agreements. And I wanted to highlight this last one, May 20th. It's a bit of short notice, but we have a joint council meeting with the planning board to discuss data centers. So the policies behind data centers. What direction does the city want to go in? I mean, we currently hear different numbers all the time, but we'll go with 55. Approximately 55 data centers. And I think from our perspective, you know, we're working on building that system out to accommodate 1,300 megawatts, and we're looking at that 2028 timeframe. After 2028, you know, we might need to have some operational experience to see how things are working there. But it's like then the conversation is, okay, what happens after that timeframe in terms of additional growth? So I would encourage all of you to attend. I think the City Council and Planning Board would like to hear from some of you folks who are our customers. With that, I will turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Nico. Chris Carwick, I'm the Assistant Director of Customer Development and Project Management. I'm going to talk a little bit about our electric system performance and some of the improvements. And then lastly, we'll touch on customer outages and some responsibilities of the customers. So reliability stat index types. Wanted to start by saying, we'll touch on the metrics here in a second, but we participate in the American Public Power Association E-Reliability Tracker, E-Tracker annual reporting tool, which benchmarks us and other utilities. Want to point out that we received the RP3 award at the diamond level, which is the highest level. And so that recognizes utilities that demonstrate high proficiency in reliability, safety, workforce development, and system improvement. Let's see. Okay, 2016 to 2024. So we don't have all 25 years here, but we do have our outage statistics. So we saw an increase in the number of outages in 2024, where we experienced several extreme weather patterns early in the year. That date was actually February 4th, a Sunday. I remember it well. Some of you may remember that live here, we had 95-mile-per-hour winds at the ridge tops. So that was actually a big day for us. So much that was the largest set of outages that we've experienced since the Loma Prieta quake. So it gives you kind of an idea of what happened that day. In a few slides, we'll take a look at benchmark data, which I think will normalize that number. As Nico mentioned, SPP is moving away from a traditional reactionary maintenance philosophy towards an analytics-based approach, which I'll also touch on later in the presentation. We believe this will serve us well in reducing our number of outages. I might add that this is a similar path that we do with our veg management, which has been very successful for us. So the first metric that we're going to talk about is our average service availability index. So quite simply, this is our availability to our customers. So SVP, although we see a slight dip at 99.96 from 99.98 in 2022, we are still world-class. So these are fantastic numbers, and I think that's why all of you are here. Three important reliability metrics, and we're gonna actually benchmark these against PG&E and the state of California in a second. But the first one being our customer average interruption duration index. Okay, so that's a mouthful. This is the average duration in minutes of an interruption that is greater than 5 minutes in length. So that I call that the CAIDI. So that's the one in blue. The one in green is our SAIDI, which is a system average interruption duration index. So that's all outages, no restriction on time like the first one, which was 5 minutes. And then the third is our SAIFI, which is the average number of instances a customer on the utility system will experience a sustained interruption during the specific time frame. So why are these important? Well, these are the metrics that all utilities are judged against. So let's start with our SAIDI. So here, SAIDI, we're identifying us in blue, PG&E local, San Jose, and then all of California. So SVP numbers are benchmarked. Well, got that. Happy to say that SVP continues to have some of the lowest numbers around. Next one will be our CAIDI. Again, SVP has great numbers in comparison to PG&E local in San Jose and the whole of California. And then our SAIFI. And this is the number of the average number of instances a customer on the utility system will experience a sustained interruption during a specific time frame. So these numbers fluctuate with everybody's numbers elevating a little bit in 2023. But again, SVP's numbers are very good. Next, I want to talk about power quality events. I'm not sure if everybody knows what a PQ event is, so I'll give a brief description. A PQ event is usually or typically a momentary dip in voltage that is usually not significant enough to cause a system fault. However, some of our customers may have very sensitive equipment and will pick this up, causing their self-generation to come online and potentially separate from our utility system. Important to note that the majority of the PQ events that happen to our customers occur outside of SVP service territory. So 2024, there was a total of 12. 3 of them were within our service territory, 9 were outside. 4 of the events were actually due to that storm on February 2nd. The 2025 stats, which are still ongoing, obviously, two in the SVP territory were due to balloons, and the third was due to a car pole. Okay. Common causes of PQ events are bird strikes, tree limbs being blown in, mylar balloons, wildfires. Okay. Okay, veg management. So this is one we're actually pretty proud of. Since 2019, our veg management has been driven by reliability metrics that we looked at briefly here and analytics. 100% of SVP transmission and distribution system is inspected for vegetation conflicts. All identified conflicts are removed within 18 months. So right now we're working with Davie Resource Group to update a veg management standard. We hope to have this issued and approved by Q3 of 25. Transmission distribution circuits. This is how we do our inspections. So again, this is also done very similar to veg management. It's based on reliability metrics and analytics. 20% of the circuits are fully inspected on an annual basis. It's a 5-year term. So we should have 100% completion within that 5 years. So this year we've got 27 circuits targeted. Okay, DSGS. Not to be confused with PSPS, although they do go together sometimes. This program is sponsored by the CEC and authorized by the governor's office. There's quite a bit of detail in this program. We actually put together a handout. It's in the folder that you were all given when you came in. The key takeaway here is to speak to your key customer rep. This is a very good program. There's a lot of detail in it. Every customer will be a little bit different. So again, if you don't know anything about it or you haven't signed up, talk to your key customer rep. That'd be the best step forward. Outage management system. So the OMS it's a utility and a customer-facing tool. So it serves both purposes. Customers will receive outage information and updates in a timely fashion. For the large customers that are here today, the key customer rep is still your best friend. That's where you're going to get all, real-time information detailed to your specific organization and business. The OMS will be a little bit more general because it's going to the masses. So again, speak with your KCR. Please ensure that you've provided correct contact info with your KCR. Invite you to speak to them today just to ensure that happens. The OMS, as Nico stated earlier, is targeted to go live in summer of 2025 this year. Okay, some requirements that we have for your safety and ours. SVP should have a 24/7 single point of contact for any system emergencies. While the customer contact changes those, when the customer contact changes, those changes should be communicated with SVP customer service rep ASAP. Additionally, we'd like the area around all energized equipment should be kept free of debris and hazards. So this is really focused on your facilities people. OSHA and the National Electric Code require 36 inches of space. SVP should also have a 24/7 drivable access to all SVP-owned equipment, including 12 kV switchgear with a 10-foot working space. So this is for your safety and ours. In the event that we have a system fault and we can't get in, that's when the bolt cutters unfortunately come out because we need to get in. So similar to police and fire, if there's a system fault, we need to access it quickly. Okay, customer caused outages. So when an SVP circuit breaker trips, so SVP will take steps to de-energize and isolate the feeder. What does that mean? That means that we're going to do everything we can in our power to make the system safe. That means it's going to take a while for that to happen, and that means that you're going to be de-energized for a while. So that's an important thing to think about. Next steps performed by SVP and the customer will take time, and the customer should be prepared for this. A customer high voltage qualified electrical worker is required to be on site to operate, troubleshoot, and repair customer equipment. I'd like to note that most customers seem to farm this out, and contractors are not always able to respond immediately. Now, more times than not, this happens Thanksgiving morning, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Eve. So typically in the past, I would be getting that phone call. Nick is back here today. He gets these phone calls now, so that's a good thing. But ultimately, the customer is going to have somebody, do this work. We don't do it. We don't provide the labor, and we certainly don't provide the oversight of your equipment. Now, third item is customers must submit all requested documentation to the SVP KCR for SVP engineering review for re-energization. So it takes us a little while. We want to understand what happened, what happened, how you addressed it, how it's being fixed, how we're going to prevent it from happening again. So we will not re-energize until those steps are met. We've had some customers in the past that push really hard, and unfortunately, this is what we have to do. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. I think the facility folks get it. Others don't always get that. We do communicate with our city manager. We let them know when this happens so that they're appraised. But that's just how it goes. Okay, customer responsibilities in an outage. So the big one, be prepared. Have a high voltage electrician on call if you don't have one on staff. This slide highlights best management practices and responsibilities of the customer. I also want to point out that there are long lead times for electrical components and equipment. Your facilities folks should identify and take inventory of critical spares and should have them on site. So talk to your facilities folks. Critical spares are essential. They should have a list. They should have them in inventory. They should have an electrician on standby. Especially going into the holidays, I urge you to, break out your emergency response plan for in the event something happens, so you're prepared. And customer change management. So the picture here that we're trying to identify is that red Lamacoid sign. The key customer reps will be reaching out about the implementation of warning signs to be placed on your main and tiebreakers. Let's see if I can read it. You can't. Ultimately, what the sign says is that don't operate the main and the tiebreakers without contacting SVP. We've had this happen quite a few times. We speak to it over and over again. Somehow the message gets missed. So customers, they need to reach out to their KCRs anytime switchgear is going to be operated or equipment is installed, removed, whatever, within the high voltage system. So this could include protection upgrades, setting changes, replacement of equipment, repairs, any of that. We want you to communicate with us. That way we can make sure nothing bad goes wrong. And I think that's it for me. Thank you, and open up to questions.
Great, thank you. So anybody in the room, we have a mic that we can float around. If you have any questions, if you're joining us online, please use the chat to submit your questions for the team. Anybody in the room, feel free. And then Lena has the chat.
Is any plan to minimize? Then any plans to enhance your energy efficiency rebates for building as well as solar projects?
Thank you for that question. First, so PQ events. Yes, I would say we are working with the ISO to identify, there are some issues in the local BES, which typically are where the PQ events are occurring. We are in full support of additional construction. We speak in support of those. And a lot of what's going on with the ISO and TPP process is to bring not only more capacity, but more resilience into our local system. That's about what I can say. We don't operate PG&E's system. So in terms of our system, we're also looking at upgrades within our system to assist there as well. You want to take the second one? You want to take the, okay, good.
So yeah, we're doing a lot in terms of transportation electrification, building electrification, and also beneficial
energy efficiency projects as well. So one of the things that we do is assess our programs throughout the entire year. So specifically for our energy efficiency programs, we go through on a fiscal year schedule. So we're taking a look at any program changes right now. We do a annual mail out of all of our programs in a nice packet to all of our commercial industrial customers. But you don't have to wait for that to come in the mail, because our wonderful key account team will be doing site visits with all of you over the next 6 months to go over your facility specific growth needs, and also an overview of all of the applicable programs that would be a good fit for you. So in terms of program changes or anything like that, shameless launch of my own that I manage. We do have rebate programs for fleet electrification and also EV charging stations. We also have a great suite in your folders. Those are handpicked programs for both electrification and energy efficiency that we've handpicked for you that we feel would be good fits for you. So please review those too.
Hi, I'm Rachel Del Harris. I'm Senior Division Manager for Customer Engagement, and my team manages key accounts and also customer programs. The one thing I wanted to add is if there's some need that's not getting met, please let us know. If there's a custom project you'd like to do, we can work with you. If our incentives are not meeting the needs for you to be able to do your project, let us know. Don't let that amount be a barrier. If there's something we can do to make a project work, we're happy to work with you and talk through how we can make it work for us and work for you. So if there's something you're looking at doing and upgrading your building, electrification, solar, anything like that, come and talk to us. We're happy to work with you to try to make that project work. So thank you.
So let me, before I answer that, let me just caveat that I'm relatively new here. So I've been here about a year. So, and I think where you're getting at with this is kind of entitlement, I guess an entitlement to like that additional capacity, and how is that going to be kind of allocated, I guess. And I think generally speaking, a lot of the capacity, even going up to that 1,300 number, has already been spoken for. So we're dealing with what's in the pipeline already. You bring up a good point, though, that and we do run into this situation where somebody may not be using as much as they thought they were going to be using, or they went away, or something like that. And all I can say, and it's not the greatest answer, is that those are ongoing conversations. We do, as many of you know, we have agreements, different substation agreements and such. And those have different vintages, and the details can be quite varied in terms of our obligations and your obligations. And so we're kind of parsing through all those and giving a lot of thought to, if when we get to that situation, if we have that unused capacity, how do we, and the reality is that everybody, all of you have opinions how we should do that as well. And they may not necessarily be aligned. And so it's a difficult question to ask. I think right now we're just kind of planning for that growth. We feel like we've got everything that's kind of committed to in the pipeline. We're in good shape there. And then when we get to that 1,300, we kind of have to see, it's like, well, again, operationally, it's because things are going to change. And it's like, how does that work? We're already running into situations on our system. It's not a dire situation, but where we have to be a little nimble in terms of the flows and maintaining standards and reliability. And so how's that going to look when we add 500 more megawatts, right? Even with all the growth. So it's a good question. It's a very complicated question.
Sure. I think the question was vibration analysis, who we use, and what we have discovered. Okay. So the vibration analysis is typically used for rotating equipment. Nick, help me out. Is it RTSI? RTSI is the vendor that we're using right now. They were awarded through the RFP process. What have we found? We've identified, before faults have happened, lots of things. I mean, it's a, let's see, boiler feed pumps, condensate pumps, gas turbine, blade rubs. So, it's not just a matter of, oh, hey, there's a vibration. They look at the orbitals, and I'm sure maybe you know about this, maybe you don't, but there's a science to this. And so it'll exactly tell us, where to look, where to pinpoint something, when we think the failure will happen. And then we actually, vibrational analysis engineers, we sit down with them, and they also give us a scorecard to tell us, how things are looking. So typically that's in our generation plants. So gas and hydro. Does that answer your question? All right. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, we're always committed to finding ways to help our customers be more energy efficient. And we talked earlier a little bit about some of the rebates, and we're certainly open to if there's other suggestions. I think the challenge for us is that, yeah, we can kind of squeeze a little bit out here and there, but at the end of the day, we've got new customers coming online, which are just going to kind of, that's just noise, the savings that we get on energy efficiency. So we've kind of already baked that in there to some degree in some of our forecasts. But I don't think it's really, there may be some new innovative things that come along. And again, we're open to having conversations, but I'm not optimistic.
I just want to add that, Nico gave the stat. It was 92% of our load is industrial customers. So that's, for the most part, that's you folks that are here today. So if there's anybody, here that wants to offer up some additional capacity, we would more than likely take it. So, oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Did I? No, I'm kidding.
So the question that came into the chat was, what is the KCR? It is Key Customer Representative, AKA your best friend.
So after an unplanned outage, what documentation needs to be submitted to the KCR? Is it just like cable test reports, transformer test report?
Yeah, great question. It really depends. I mean, so we want to, first off, we want to know what happened. So we want, one of your engineers to go through and say, hey, this relay misoperated, or this switchgear has a fault, and we've identified it. The breaker wouldn't, we couldn't rack it out or whatever, some sort of misoperation. So we want to know about it. We want to know exactly what happened, why it happened. Was it due to lack of maintenance? Was it due to operator error? Whatever that may be. So every situation is going to be a little bit different. With that information, we're going to look to poke some holes because we don't want this to happen again. So a customer induced fault is going to affect potentially all the customers on that loop. And we want to prevent that from happening. This is how we keep our reliability numbers so high. So did that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm happy to invite our special guest up to the front here. We are joined by the CEO of Silicon Valley Leadership Group, Ahmad Thomas.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you all so much for having me. My name's Ahmad Thomas. I'm the CEO of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. Honored to be here to chat with you all today for the next 15 minutes or so. I'm going to talk about AI, some of the priorities we're focused on, and it is so aligned with what's happening here at Silicon Valley Power. We're fortunate to represent many of the companies who are in the room because this transformational technology that has excited us to such a degree, you all are powering it. And you're powering it with 55 data centers, we heard. You're powering it like really no one else in the region, certainly, and with a set of objectives that I think has tremendous potential for the country going forward. So just two things from me today. I'll give you quickly some background on Silicon Valley Leadership Group and me, and then I'll share just three observations around AI powering the future of our innovation economy that I think have some relevance here. And I would, again, just say a huge thank you. I'm honored to be here. Rachel Riddell Harris, we worked together for Senator Feinstein, but 15, 16 years ago. And always great to see alums of Senator Feinstein out leading and making a positive difference in the world. So with that, how does this thing work? Do I just push it and it goes? Well, wow, it just like magic. Okay, maybe this is, everything is possible. All right, we go to the next slide. Those have the 3 points that I'll talk about. So Silicon Valley Leadership Group, we're the Business Association of Silicon Valley. David Packard founded this group 5 decades ago, David Packard of HP. And at the time, you had about 30 companies actually very engaged around energy is one of the core issues. But getting the CEOs and executives engaged around public policy, engaged around advocacy, public-private partnerships to make this region all it could be from a business competitiveness standpoint and from a quality of life standpoint for employees and for our communities here in the region. And you fast forward to today, virtually every major technology employer, every global player that is based here is a member of our business association, and that mission of David Packard rings true for the work that we do. AI-connected work of late is our core focus and priority. And we've got 3 gates that I'll talk about here that I think are very relevant. And again, tie back to Silicon Valley Power, tie back to capacity, tie back to much of your expertise that I think perhaps has an impact that we all don't even fully appreciate around our innovation ecosystem, our innovation economy, and what the future looks like. So 3 issues: future workforce, value creation, and I'll close and really try and focus on infrastructure. When we talk about our future workforce, we see AI as additive. We see AI as something that augments humans. And this is a core and fundamental issue that we believe needs to be approached as an opportunity. And so as an example, at SVLG, we created the Institute for California AI Policy. And the first project funded under that institute was in partnership with Foothill De Anza Community College, trying to come up with model AI curriculum for community college students. The idea being there will be a lot of human oversight of AI jobs that don't require a PhD, perhaps don't require a 4-year degree, but can be good paying jobs that create inclusive opportunities and fulfill a workforce need of our companies. So I think that's just a point around positioning that I want to share again as I talk about 3 issues relevant to the innovation ecosystem in AI, that this is technology we view as additive. And we view all of the work around infrastructure, all of the work around power as additive to our economy, social impact, and very honestly, additive to humankind, right? So that's workforce. In terms of value creation, you're probably aware that we're in a volatile economic time, right? And the environment in Washington, D.C. is uneven at the moment. When we look at certainty around key policy issues, take trade and tariffs as one example. California is now the 4th largest economy in the world, but as we all know well, living here in the South Bay, we have very real challenges. So on the one hand, we have the most incredible innovation ecosystem on the planet. We believe that we are the center of the global economy, the companies here in Silicon Valley, driving said innovation. But the cost of living here, some of the challenges around quality of life broadly are very real. We believe this technology harnessed in California and in Silicon Valley creates more economic growth, creates more value, and helps to transform and address some of those problems that we spoke about. When you take a look at funding for AI companies, for example, venture capital funding, over half of that funding is here in our region. And I mean San Francisco and Silicon Valley. And when you take a look at where we want this technology to scale and be harnessed and be developed, it's with some of the people we heard there from many of our member companies. We want that to be developed here. And very plainly, without the capacity in terms of power, without the data centers that we need, that's not possible to accomplish. And I've recently testified in Sacramento to this point. As you all know very well, given latency, you cannot have a more modern data center in North Carolina and the jobs here, right? And so the issue of value creation connected to AI, connected to our future, is central because we want that value to be created here for our community's benefit. And we also believe we have differentiating leadership, innovation, and other assets that really necessitate that the technology be developed and scaled here. So what is the key gating item? It's infrastructure. And this isn't perhaps the most headline grabbing thing when you think about AI, right? Data centers and resiliency and a smart grid and how we power data centers. But it has been our core focus attached to the AI future of our region and our country and attached to the future of our innovation economy, because without the power, none of this is possible. The signature initiative of Silicon Valley Leadership Group last session, with a huge thank you to our Senator Cortese, was a data center bill. And essentially that bill, right? So your big tech business group, #1 legislative priority last session was data centers. And what that legislation did was allow data centers up to 200 megawatts to go through a fast track procedure through the CEC for easier approval, to make the process more streamlined and more efficient. And as I said, our top priority, because you could argue even 200 megawatts for some of our companies is only scratching the surface, especially of what our next generation and future chips are going to look like, right? We want to see California being a center to power this technology. When we talk about data centers, I think the narrative has to change, right? So I mentioned I was just in Sacramento last month testifying on a data center effort by a member of the Bay Area delegation that would have made it very hard to see more data centers built here in California, with reporting requirements and calculations and developer requirements and otherwise, that we know if you compare them side by side with Arizona, or if you're trying to cite your next investment opportunity and it's Texas versus California for that build, it's pretty clear with conditions like that where you're going to pick, right? And these are multi-cycle investments. So even conversations like that might harm us for investments that are being planned out multiple years into the future. And so for us, I guess what I would want to share as parting points, or where you all hear very directly from me a very strong alignment, is we hope we can begin to shift the conversation around AI and opportunity, which is also strongly correlated to the conversation around infrastructure and power. When we talk about AI and future technology, it is not run for the hills, your jobs are gone, right? It's about how are we augmenting the human condition? How are we curing incurable diseases? How are we taking a look at our community college students, for example, here in our region, and providing more opportunities for great paying jobs and mobility and inclusive economic growth? It's about competitiveness. Our state needs more revenue, right? Our region needs businesses to thrive. And this region can be the Mecca, the global Mecca for AI. And the only way we can do that is with sensible policies around infrastructure, right? It's not about diesel power and backups and environmental issues or other concerns that you often hear. It's really, in our view, about how we better the human condition and how we do so in a way that's very reasonable to allow for responsible deployment of these technologies. And so bills that we are advancing or where we're focused on AI are public-private partnership efforts around workforce, efforts that are focused on an augmentative view of AI in terms of what it means for human capital, and then laser focused on data centers and making California a place where data center bills that, again, in our view, talking to many of our companies, 200 megawatts, I know it does sound like a lot, but it's not going to sound like a lot very soon, right? And Silicon Valley Power's leadership around this infrastructure and how they approach what I would call, again, existential issues to the future of this region, our competitiveness, our quality of life, and our well-being. Just please know that you have a partner in Silicon Valley Leadership Group. You have a partner with so many of our businesses here in the region. We see the opportunity. I think we just need to try and communicate it very compellingly and work as we have been doing very methodically to see our innovation economy be all it can be. So those are the three items that I had to share for you just in this brief time. I'm glad to take any questions if that's appropriate, because I won't be at the dinner or at the lunch, or I know we're just a couple minutes from time. I'm also glad to not stand in the way of you and your lunch. Again, very grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I just want to say thank you all to our fantastic speakers, and especially to the entire customer engagement team. It has been a whole all hands on deck team effort, and I couldn't be any more prouder of my team. So thank you all so much for all of your hard work putting this together. So we have lunch prepared for you outside these doors. You do have a meal ticket in your folder in order to get lunch. So if you open up your folder, you'll see a half white sheet piece of paper called survey. That is your meal ticket. So please take a moment to fill this survey out. It's really brief. So again, fill that out, please. And we're happy to have lunch and enter into the networking portion. Thank you all. And thank you all, everyone online. We will be ending the streaming now.